We're less than a month away from the release of Star Wars Episode 7, and right now's a really good time to pop in the original classics and become reacquainted with the franchise. But before jumping into that, I recommend giving George Lucas's first feature film a look. It's a bold debut recommended for those that are open to seeing something more experimental rather than conventional. THX 1138 is my pick for this week. Welcome to Debt to Cinema. I'm Steven Malmanex.
And I'm Brian Gillis. Like most people, we love going to the theater and catching latest releases. However, it can sadly put a big dent in your wallet.
Fortunately, living in the digital age makes the viewing possibilities endless from the comforts of home.
Many of these films that you can see right from your couch, we're ashamed to say we miss, despite labeling ourselves cinephiles.
So join us as one or both of us cross off a title from our list of shame.
It can be an all-time essential classic,
Or an underrated piece of cinema that's worth giving a shot.
hell, it might just be some trashy film we want the other's opinion on. So sit tight and join us as we pay off our debts, $1 at a time.
What's wrong?
6442.
What's wrong?
Please.
What's wrong?
Wanted to touch you so many times.
My mate has been acting very strange.
What's wrong?
Never mind. They're watching us now. I can feel it.
No one knows. No one can see us.
This is City Probe Scanner. We've run across some illegal sexual activity.
So I guess we should start by me saying THX for this, or thanks and internet speed.
I was going to try to do the THX sound logo just now, but you started
Really?
talking
How
earlier.
you gonna do that?
I was about to. No, I would have butchered it anyway. No, it can't be done.
So that's probably the biggest legacy this film has, the fact that, Lucas Sound became, or not Lucas Sound, but the fact that he made technology, the THX certification, and so the namesake of this film is kind of known by everyone, even if they don't know what the film is.
Mm-hmm.
Which isn't for the worst. I wasn't the biggest fan of this on my watch right here. Very peculiar movie.
It's tough to get into, and honestly, I enjoyed it a lot more my second time, which this was.
Wait, did
first off,
you watch the theatrical cut, right?
yeah,
Yeah, I definitely watched the director's cut. It became more obvious once the film progressed more.
and how was that?
Wasn't bad. I mean, it kind of had the new editions of Star Wars thing going for it. Like there were some like subtle things where it's like extra locations, or the holograms look pretty nice, or there was like trains in the BART tunnels that were moving way faster than they should have been. But then there's like monkeys towards the end that were clearly CG.
Yeah,
That just
the
didn't.
Dwellers Underground.
Yeah, it just didn't fit because you're watching it and everything about this movie is very authentic, like no makeup, yeah, very scant on the wardrobe choices or anything distracting, and then you see these very obvious computer-generated monkeys.
See, that's what's messed up is I did see the clip on YouTube a while back. It's not fresh on my mind, but I remember it looking awful, and also it just makes no sense whatsoever because the underground dwellers for that scene in the theatrical cut, it's just midgets that are really hairy, and you see one of them in the
prison
in the
scene,
rehabilitation room. Yeah, and that I don't know what didn't they have tails in the director's cut as well? Like they literally were monkeys.
No,
I
I
think.
didn't see a tail. It very much so looked like a monkey from Planet of the Apes, though, just smaller, kind of like the monkeys from Jumanji.
Man. Well, I'm happy with the theatrical cut. I don't know why Lucas likes to pretend.
Well, I mean, the reason
the original
that
versions
happened
don't
because
exist,
I
but
don't know. I did a little bit of reading. It was just that they were doing a re-release. There wasn't exactly an anniversary, but 30 years after the first release, and so he had the clout, and they re-released it, and they put out the DVD and Blu-ray copies. So
I don't know. From what I heard of the director's cut, it's not bad, and I mean you're saying it's not bad either. It's not like it changes things wildly out of context, like Han shooting first or anything like that. It's mostly
No,
just extensions and
yeah, I think it was like adding people to crowd scenes and just making a larger than life thing
Although,
from a basically indie film.
honestly though, that's kind of I would not want to see that because just seeing the theatrical cut, it is amazing what he manages to get out of it just with the budget that he has. There's some shots where it's obvious that they don't have much room to put the camera, so the actors are positioned like way way off at the edge of the frame, and you're just kind of staring at like a center wall just to kind of trick you into thinking that the frame is a little bit bigger than it really is. But it's really, there's a lot of cool stuff that they can get with that budget. I mean, especially, it's insane that, you think about it. I don't know how he managed to convince a bunch of people to shave their head.
Yeah.
I mean, that, like, I don't know
Apparently,
how that casting call went. That's
that was
insane.
part of the publicity too. They had like a documentary called Bald, the making of THX 1138, and like they would have people like in busy parts of cities just getting their head shaved. But yeah, it was, you said this already. The only person in the whole film without a shaved head is a midget. I liked it. I thought one of the cooler things about this film, besides the opening credits, which were fucking cool, like really awesome.
Yeah.
Irreversible starts in a very similar way, except that's part of the film being shown backwards. But very cool that the credits are scrolling up instead of down, and I kind of saw that right away. I mean, it helped that the font was green and looked really cool.
Really?
I think mine was green.
Mine was white.
Mine definitely wasn't white.
Special edition.
I thought it was really cool because it was like the precursor to George Lucas fucking over the way credits work. Because like everyone knows Star Wars was the first big motion picture to not have credits before a film, and it changed the way Hollywood worked. Like it's rare to see a title sequence nowadays.
I mean, everything, about this, just including those titles, just it's unnerving right from the start. The like just the score from Lalo Schifrin.
Plus the weird technological sounds and radio waves and things
just
of
the
that
constant
nature.
like just cutting to like different. I don't know. Just I love the way that opening is put together. It glued me more so this time around than it did. It's definitely very experimental. Like
For
and that's
background
the best way I could put it.
info, I tried to watch this movie last night and I fell asleep right after this stuff that we're talking about here ended. It was like 20 minutes in, I believe, when I started getting drowsy. And this time it was much easier because I knew what was going on. I was looking for more things, and I was like, oh, that's them. Like, that's La and THX. Like, that's them. But very weird. Like, because even on the director's cut, it's still not grainy, but it has, like, a distorted quality to the surveillance video. Which doesn't make sense too, because like the time period, if you caught it, there's a timestamp that says this is 1974. It's like in what universe? In the galaxy far, far away?
It's funny. Like I felt the first time that I saw it, like I definitely would have outed it as being like very out there and experimental. Like it definitely is, but I don't know. Maybe it's a second viewing that I just because I already know what was happening. I felt it was a lot easier to digest. And it was a lot more accessible. Yeah, like I don't know. It just didn't seem as off-putting, and maybe it's because I was just more. I knew what to expect, and I don't know how a lot of this stuff went over my head the first time.
Because that first watch I did last night, I was like, this is really weird. This is really pretentious. I can't get into this. Like, what the fuck's going on? The editing was really weird, especially for something in the 70s or early 70s for that matter. Like, I think the average length of a shot in this film is 6 seconds. So pretty fast cutting for something that old. But yeah, I couldn't get a grasp on it when I watched it tonight. I started noticing things like that opening like real scene. There's actual dialogue and like story progression when the two mates THX and LUH are in their apartment together and talking, and he's watching his hologram programs. And at first, like the first time, I was like, "What's that machine?" And then I totally got it this time. That was a machine that was jerking him off when that black belly dancer was on TV.
There was a machine jerking him off?
You didn't catch that? Yeah, there's like this. It looks like the Mr. Coffee from Back to the Future Part 2.
I think
comes
we
down
saw
from
completely different versions here because he didn't have a machine doing it. He was jerking off, but it wasn't with the assistance of a machine.
That makes it way cooler than like this is seriously like the machine that comes from the ceiling, okay? And he's watching this programming, and all you see is like a churning motion happening, and you look at his face, and he's obviously like in ecstasy or like about to come, and he is like his eyes are rolling or whatever. And then when he's done, the machine like pulls up into the ceiling again. And I was like, what the fuck? Like I was like, that was cool.
God, okay, I'm gonna pull this up on movie censorship just to get like a little look at the changes here because it really does sound like we saw completely different movies.
I mean, from what I'm saying though, that makes it sound way more
Yeah,
futuristic than a
that's...
dude just like touching himself. Like, because the way I saw it, like this film's all about repressed emotions and not having sex. It kind of does the whole Demolition Man thing without actual reason for it, just because. And
wow.
when the machine is coming down, that kind of, it makes sense. It's like, well, that's how these people that control the society kind of manage these emotions and suppress these urges. Whereas in the version you saw, if Robert Duvall is just fucking jerking off, then that doesn't really make sense.
Which made sense. I mean, it's especially.
I mean, given what they
seeing...
do a couple of minutes after that, yeah.
All right, I just sent you a link at the page I'm looking at, and yeah, I see the image now. There's like a little tube thing for the theatrical cut. It was just a red light. But it's for me it worked when it was. I didn't need a machine. I mean, yeah, that definitely makes it interesting that he added that. It's not a useless change or anything. It kind of makes it way more disturbing, but. Really, that scene it really reminded me of just that conversation in the end of the tour, and we've talked about this several times on and off the air. Just of how in the future he's predicting what it's going to be like when we have holograms out there and how we're going to connect with stuff like pornography and and all that shit. And it really, this is a pretty accurate depiction of what David Foster Wallace was talking about in the movie. Sounds way fucking weirder though, and with the assistance of Are you looking at it?
Well, I haven't found that part yet, but yeah. I'm looking at these.
No, there is a lot of. I mean, yeah, I'm looking. A bunch of stuff it's obvious, clearing up the holograms and whatnot.
Yeah, that red light's fucking stupid, okay? The machine makes it way cooler.
Okay, I'm confused by this one here. For the mind block scene, did they really make his eyes go white?
Well, not like go white, but his eyes are rolled up into the top of his head.
Oh my god. Well, it's not...
That mind block scene was fucking stupid anyway. I didn't understand that.
It made sense in the theatrical cut. I mean,
I understood what they were doing. It was this guy's not on his pills. He's doing something real dangerous. His heart rate is elevated. His breathing is erratic. He's dropping the radiation, whatever, okay? And he's going to make an explosion. That's why everyone clears out. But at no point did they go, maybe shutting off his brain is the reason why he's fucking up. I don't know. It wasn't like there. Let's just get this out of the way.
That just makes it part of the the whole bureaucratic process of just that trial. I mean,
but yeah,
I'm assuming we saw the same movie in that scene. Like,
it's the same. Like there's very
because I'm not
sure
anymore. I'm looking. Yeah. I'm scrolling through, and there's a ton of different stuff.
They don't change. I think it's just slight change. It was enhancements. This is his first feature film. He wanted it to be closer to the vision he had, and trying to add the things that Warner Brothers forced him to take away when they released it initially, because they took like 4 minutes out of the cut. But yeah, there's very little story here, or like what is passed on as story is kind of.
It's very simple. It's just purely visually driven.
When it comes to a movie like this is pretty close in terms of setup to something like The Hunger Games or Logan's Run or The Maze Runner or any of these young adult fiction things that are really big right now. Like, it's very close, or The Giver even. Except all of those, they really kind of. It's more than a hint, okay? It's not just visual storytelling, like you said. And that's what I like. I want to know how this subterranean complex came to be, why there's control over all this stuff, why people can't reproduce, what the fuck is... they call him something at one point where they're like, he's a birth human or something along those lines.
There's a lot of other inspirations in there. I mean, there's obviously 1984... The fact that they can't reproduce, there's some Brave New World in there. There's a lot of stuff that he's drawing influence from, and it's not like it needs to all be spelled out for me. But
I would just like
because it's there.
That little extra.
I don't need the information, but because it's there, I can see that the world operates in ways that are clearly beyond what the character, what Robert Duvall can understand, and that really is what kept me engaged is that you're really stuck in there with him as he's trying to get out of there and really get free.
I mean, I get it that it's kind of the hero journey story. It's about this worker who has no emotions, and he gains emotions because his wife,
up,
his wife starts
he has to break
medicating
free,
him, and then he
his
has
mate.
sex, and then she's pregnant, and then he literally tries to get out of this hellhole.
Which, oh my god, the fetus thing, like,
that was weird.
I don't know what happened there, but it sounds fucked up.
I think what it was is that they implanted her
Consumption?
consciousness into a fetus, or maybe they took the baby out of her and turned into a fetus. Who knows?
I mean, either way, just leaving it to the imagination, it's really fucked up.
Let's talk about the way that he gets out of limbo with Sen is that some black dude, the only black guy in the whole
hologram?
movie.
Yeah.
It's a hologram that, in
I
his
don't know
own
what to
wording,
make out of that,
got
but-
out of the hologram realm and entered the real world.
Which, by the way, was he the one in that comedy?
I think it was.
hologram?
Yeah, I think it was the car one. That's why he says something. He's like, "Yeah, you see the one about the limbs or whatever."
That was one of my favorite jokes in the movie, where he's just like, "I just got my car issued, and I ran it into the Civic Center."
Yeah, into this people. And Robert
that's
Duvall
what I
goes,
said. That was really funny. Yeah. I mean, yeah, that is another thing though that I don't know. I just didn't really catch it the first time, but the second time I realized, oh, this is a satire, and there was so much shit that I just found funny immediately, like.
"Yeah, that hologram
Especially
stuff."
with the robots, like, he's one of them just
yeah.
handing a baton to the kids to play with. If it will make you happy, just this once, you can look at it. Although my favorite line was when they hid in the control room after being chased, and the robot went, "If everything is okay. We seem to be having some trouble opening the door here." Yeah. But it will be fine.
I mean, there's a certain irony that this guy, the manhunt that is happening, is over a guy that is actually creating these robotic police in the first place.
Yeah. No, it's, I gotta say, just before I forget it, but actually my favorite joke was at the very end when they run out of money just to get them.
Oh yeah. It's 6% over budget. Cease tracking him.
That seems sort of like an in joke because this movie was so low budget that they were having trouble, shooting it. And I wonder if that was actually, I didn't read anything, but I wonder if that was a compromise that they had to make while shooting the finale. It's like, oh, we're over budget.
Let's think about how
just cancel the
crazy.
chase.
Let's talk about how crazy this film is just from a production standpoint. George Lucas is going to USC. He just made this short film, the THX 1138 4EB. He, respects Francis Ford Coppola, who wouldn't at that time. He's like his mentor or whatever.
No, he was like the guy that made it at that point.
Yeah.
All those guys.
And so, by some chance, because the reaction from the students was so big, that Lucas is able to sell this idea through American Zoetrope, and this is their first production, to Warner Brothers for like a big budget, especially for someone straight out of college without any real like resume, and all he has is that this one guy has made like a movie or two for the studio.
Well, yeah, but this is post Easy Rider 2. That's probably why it got financed.
Maybe.
Because,
It's crazy.
Easy Rider was that weird-ass movie that made a shitload of money.
But at least the people in Easy Rider, like, they were already known. Like, like Dennis Hopper, I almost said Jane Fonda, Peter Fonda. They're actually, they're making movies at this time. Like, they're known actors and things. And, like, maybe Dennis Hopper wasn't a director yet, but he was working on stuff, And whereas this, it's just like out of left field, and the fact that George Lucas was even able to make this, I mean, it's obviously the most inaccessible film he's made. I mean, some people, you would argue that Episode 2 is hard to enjoy, but everything else that he's ever made is very consumer, targeted, story driven, with easily accessible characters and interesting storylines. Like, he followed this up with American Graffiti, and this couldn't be any further away from that.
I mean, American Graffiti, really, it's really far away from everything that he's done, because it's all been sci-fi except for that.
Well, I mean, like from a genre standpoint, but like Star Wars, like A New Hope is pretty close to American Graffiti. You got a lot of youths just trying to have fun, and then there's some bad things that happen. They gotta avoid it. except the scope, obviously, it's not small town strip on a Friday night. It's the galaxy's under attack.
Yeah, no, this is very avant-garde
Yeah.
Lucas, where he does stuff like it's. I don't know if you saw Look at Life and
No, I haven't
some of
seen
the
any
other
of his shorts.
yeah, just some stuff that he did in college, but there's a lot of really experimental stuff that he does. And when he talks about wanting to retire and do hobby films, it's stuff that I imagine would be a lot more like THX. And I would honestly love to see more of that, being done.
Yeah, I'm all for that too. Because the production design on this film for its budget is really, really
God,
amazing. Like it's obviously not Blade Runner size, but some of the interior shots, it's similar. Like using Frank Lloyd
Well, I don't
Wright
know.
buildings.
Are you
And
looking at the right screenshots here? Because it looks like all the interiors are expanded
oh
from the
well,
version
I,
you
I I
saw.
stopped looking at the screenshots, but I mean anyone that's listening to the show is probably seen or going to see the director's cut because that's the only version that's actually available on home video anymore, unless you find an old VHS or Laserdisc copy. But like just the buildings, anytime cars are shown, like every time I saw a car in action, I was like, "That's cool. That's really nice." And then of course, the climactic scene is a car chase. Um, but yeah, just like some of those buildings were really cool. Like not all the interior stuff was interesting, but anytime there was people on screen, like a crowd, you could tell that they paid really good detail to the surroundings. Definitely gave it that Logan's Run like feeling to it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, it's definitely influenced a lot of movies after that. Probably Logan's Run as well. Even every time I see Hunger Games, like the police force that they have in that, I always think of those THX robots in there. They always look like the same thing to me.
I mean, this is one of those movies that no one saw on its initial release, but right after Star Wars came out, and everyone was like, "Oh my God, I love George Lucas." That
They didn't see it even then, I don't think. But
probably not right away, but in like in movie houses that had a print of this still, or shortly thereafter when it got released on home video, because I know now like it's revered, like it's kind of like a cult movie with pretty, and Rotten Tomatoes has like an 80% or something really high. Like that's more generous than I am about this film, because I'm with you. Like it is very it's interesting. It's visually not breathtaking, but definitely very different and in a good way from Lucas's other work. And it's definitely a forebearer for the genre itself.
Well, yeah, but it's a debut film, and I think if you look at it at that, then it's a pretty fucking amazing one that he was able to make this.
Even though it's very weird, but yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, in a way, it really does feel like his most personal film to me. Just something
I don't
about
know.
that.
I still think it's American Graffiti for
something
the
about
fact
that
it's
ending.
in his city. Oh, when he
I
gets out
think
of the
the
tunnel.
ending, yeah, it just really, it really hits me emotionally at that end. Maybe part of it is the score, but
Oh, I think it's just
I
the
mean, I
red
really
sun.
felt it.
It's like what
Yeah,
you would
it's
call
just
it, like
it's
a
so nice to
coda.
see. It's nice to see actual, Earth, I guess, when they get outside.
I mean, it's like a coda for New Hope, though. It's one of the first shots of Mark Hamill. You got the two suns on Tatooine, and that's kind of what
Yeah,
that
that
shot
binary
looks like.
sunset really does kill me. That's one of
Yeah.
my favorite shots of all time.
I mean, that's what this sunrise reminded me of, like instantly. Just the way it's shot and the colors. I mean, obviously there's only one sunset too.
Okay, I was gonna say he didn't add another sun
Yeah,
to that.
like
Dave.
he could have. There's like a director's cut for personal consumption. It's all in the same
Actually,
universe.
I'm looking
now.
at the bottom of the page. It's colored differently though.
It's a really beautiful red. So yeah, I wouldn't buy this for $1. I think it's definitely worth a watch, especially if it's you're doing some kind of, if you haven't seen anything George Lucas has done besides Star Wars, you definitely need to watch American Graffiti. It's one of my favorite movies. We've talked about it a good amount recently on this show and our other shows anyway. But not, like you said, not a bad debut. Very like,
That's a great debut.
definitely
Yeah.
applaud him for his efforts, and maybe is less so after he changed it down the line.
Well, I'm sort of, I don't know. It's weird because this is, I guess, the best thing to call it is an art film, because it is
Yeah.
that it is very experimental. And when I do see those, it's rare that I walk out loving them right away. I just tend to analyze them the first time and just kind of appreciate them. But it's really on repeat viewings that they tend to resonate with me more, and that's kind of what happened here actually. So I don't know. Maybe upon, I'm sure I'll see it again at some point in the future when I feel like it, and I'll
Hmm.
probably, I hope I appreciate it more and more over time because it really is impressive. Specifically the theatrical cut because that's what I saw, and
Maybe you have to see the director's
just
cut
with
then.
that, well, I don't know. It might be fun just to see the changes, but honestly, I'm really impressed by what he was able to do with given the limitations of that time. That it doesn't really need. The world is just so well realized that it doesn't need those extensions to make it seem bigger. There's never a moment where I really felt it was cheap. This time I did see that. I guess the frame was condensed in a way to make it seem that way specifically. But yeah, I mean, I'm looking at a shot right now where when they get out of the rehabilitation room, he made the crowd even bigger. And
It's a huge crowd. Like it
yeah,
looks like there's like 200 people on screen, just
yeah,
moving
and I mean,
real
I know,
frantically.
yeah, and it's a lot smaller than that. But I know that the story for in real life on that day on set it was that they only had 12 people there, and they just kind of walked around in a circle just to shoot that. And that's a really like an inspirational thing for independent filmmakers out there to do something on a practical level without needing any digital enhancements or anything to get a small group of people and make it look bigger than that. I think that's really cool, the way that it was handled in the version that I saw. But
I think that not necessarily the movie itself, but just kind of the atmosphere that it creates. It really kind of reminded me of Shane Carruth's work.
oh yeah, no, I think
Like
I
it's
don't know. I
like
still need to see Upstream Color and Primer second time because I
uh,
only have one viewing out of the gate for those. I don't know if they'll probably. I hope that they sink in better.
there's something about like the world or like the tone that Shane Carruth works in, especially in Upstream Color. Like it's reality, but it's not, and it's like real silent, and they're not sure why, and there's like some technological backing. Um, Maybe I'm just crazy here, but like it's like I don't know, like ambience through technology.
Yeah, no, it's I don't know how you say it without sounding pretentious, but I don't know there is just something about the way that this movie feels that it's really growing on me, and I think I'm starting to love more, and I look forward to seeing it again whenever that may be in the future.
Well, thanks for listening, guys. I hope it's been a pleasure. If you enjoyed it, you can find updates and when episodes go live on Facebook and Twitter at Dollar Reviews. You can follow me personally on Twitter at Brian Gillis, that's BryonGillis, and also under the same name on the lovely site Letterboxd, which acts as my film diary, where I rate the films I watch on an almost daily basis, write the occasional review, and even sometimes compile lists.
You can also find me on Twitter at S_MTX. And also follow my film diary at letterbox.com. My username is also S_MTX. There I log everything I watch and sometimes write brief reviews.
If you'd like to contribute some talking points, maybe send us a film or two that you'd like for us to review, or just some feedback of any sort, you can do so by sending us an email to dollar.review@gmail.com.
And if you want to hear more of us, you can find our entire archive at dollarreviewspodcast.wordpress.com. We're also on iTunes where you can download episodes and listen to us anywhere, and you can also hear us on SoundCloud and TuneIn Radio just by searching Dollar Reviews.
Until next time, keep the change.